Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
We had dated for almost 3 years before we decided to get married. And I guess that much time is enough to know someone. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and I work as a nurse and earn quite well, as I have 2 jobs while my boyfriend, 35, works as a teacher in a high school. Our relationship was amazing, and our families loved to see us together and happy. We were a perfect couple, apparently, but as every relationship has rough patches, we had also survived through some tough times. We both are a bit bossy, and that explains why we would argue while planning something. We both wanted to do things our respective ways, and none would compromise for the other. Sometimes we would find a way, and other times we had to cancel the whole plan. We told our families that we had decided to get married, and they were very glad to know that. My mom was a bit concerned and asked me if I was sure, because whenever we had fought, we literally gave each other a hard time. My mom wanted us to take a bit more time and see if we were really ready to get married. I told her that every relationship had imperfections, and she had seen how we had survived bad times. I assured her that every relationship needs effort, and we were ready to put in, so we were sure about each other. Me and my husband-to-be had to plan the whole wedding, and it was a bit tough as we both were full-time working and had to take time to sort things out. My husband told me that he wanted a small event with family and close friends, while I had a huge list of guests. I told him that he already knew that I had a huge circle, so how could we invite only a bunch of people? He told me that he was never up for a huge wedding, and it was just a waste of money, and why would we call people who did not even matter to us? I told him that I would not be inviting the whole city, but at least had to invite the people I know or the people who had invited me. He told me that we would finalize the guest list the next day. My husband finalized the guest list and told me that I could have a look. When I went through the guest list, all I could see were the people my husband knew, his relatives and his friends from his college even. The guests from my side were my immediate family, a few of my friends, and a couple of colleagues. I was enraged and told my husband that if that was a joke, it was a horrible one. My husband told me that it was a final list and he did not think anybody else needed to be invited. I told him that I was going to add more guests I wanted to invite, and he didn't need to interfere. I listed more guests and told him that they were the important ones only. He told me that if I invited all of them, we would have to switch to a bigger venue, and why I wanted to waste so much money that could be used for our honeymoon. I told him that as we both were paying for the wedding, he had to consider what I wanted. My husband had ordered wedding invitations, and when they got delivered, I could see that they were less than I expected. As I counted them, they were according to the list my husband had finalized. Also, the venue was the same as before. I asked my husband why he did not understand and was making an issue out of nothing. I knew the invitations were ordered after I had updated the guest list, but of course my husband was not used to listening to anyone else and never even cared. My husband told me that if I let him plan the wedding all by himself, he would let me plan the honeymoon. I asked him why could we not plan everything together, to which he replied that as I would never listen to him, it was almost impossible to plan together. I told him that if he wanted our wedding to be a small, intimate event, we had to exclude the extra guests from his side. And I told him that the guests should be equal from both sides, or he was paying the larger percentage for the wedding. I asked my husband if he had excluded guests, and he told me he had. I told him that if he did not, I would make him pay for the whole event. He was just about to start an argument, but I left the room. I was not going to let him do whatever suited him, because he would never consider what the other person wanted and would always do whatever he wanted to. I asked him to show me the new guest list, and he forwarded it to me. I went through the lost and found that he had deleted guests from the list, of course. I was glad to know. I had to make sure because he was not an easy person and would never give in that easily. I told him that we were going to write names on the envelopes together, and he agreed. I thought that he had given up, because if he had not, He would had to add more guests, and he was not ready for it. After 2 or 3 days when I returned from work, my husband told me that he had written the names on the envelopes. I asked him why he did not wait for me, to which he said that he thought I was going to take time. I asked him where the remaining invitations were, and he pointed toward the desk. I found them there and was sure that he was not inviting extra guests either. After a few days, I was cleaning the house and thought of discarding those remaining invitations, but could not find them. I asked my husband, and he told me that he had already thrown them away the same day. I doubted him for a moment and then thought that, I was just overthinking, and why would he do something like that when he had agreed on something already? It's my wedding day, and my best friend, came into the bridal suite and said that I had told her that it was a small, intimate wedding while there was a swarm of guests outside. I told her that she felt like that because the venue was not that large, and she told me that there were so many people outside other than our immediate family and close friends. I told her to go outside and check what was going on, and told her that we had decided to invite only a bunch of people. My friend sent someone to see exactly how many guests were there. That person came in and told my friend that there were 100 or plus guests, as he had asked one of the caterers. I was shocked and knew that my husband had played well. I told my friend to go to my husband and tell him that I was not leaving the suite until he would send all the extra guests back. My mom came in and asked what was wrong. I told her the whole situation and said that I was not going to spare my husband, to which she replied that I had to keep calm and that I should not create a scene today. She's gone to fetch my dad, and I'm waiting for my husband. We'll keep you guys updated. My husband arrived and told me that we would sort things out later on, and it was not the right time to create a drama. I told him that he had cheated, so he had to pay for it. My dad was also there and said that the guests were waiting and we could not make them wait any longer. I told my husband that he was sending all the extra guests back or the wedding was cancelled. My husband told me that it would be embarrassing and he could not do that. I asked him if it was all right to embarrass me like that for him. I told him that if he was not sending the guests back, he had to invite my guests right away. My dad intervened and told me that the venue could not accommodate any extra guests and the preparations were also limited, so I had to give up. My husband added that even guests would not be able to attend like it was an emergency. I told my husband that I would only go out if he was going to throw a wedding party the next weekend and would invite all the guests he didn't invite for me. I also told him that he was the one who was going to pay for the whole event, and I did not want to see any of his guests there. My husband agreed and begged me to come out of the suite as it was already getting late. My husband has told me that he's planning the party, and I think he better be quick because I would not spare him this time. My husband had arranged the wedding party, and I was the one who listed the guests for it. My husband paid for the whole event, and I did not let him invite any of his guests. Our immediate families were invited, and it was a blast. My husband apologized and told me that he would never do that again, and we would be trying to understand each other from now on. So many of you recommended us to go for couple counseling, and yes, it is a great option, as we have decided to stick with each other through thick and thin. I also read the comments that told me to dump him or that I should have called the wedding off, and I think that would be too harsh. Every relationship goes like that, I guess. One day I win it, and the next day he wins. NTA, you gave him a tough time, and that is justified as he had sort of cheated. He could have discussed everything with you and you guys could find a neutral way. OP doubted her husband a little too much, and I guess that's because the husband had done things like that before. I think this relationship is going to stay hot and cold, so best of luck. NTA, but OP's husband lied throughout, and OP could have stepped back from the marriage as the one who had lied that, perfectly was going to lie again. I see the way OP and her husband sort of balance each other out, but still, OP's husband had ruined her day in a way. Glad that he made up by throwing a party, but this relationship is definitely not going to be smooth.
Next story.
I'm a 37-year-old woman and I live in Japan for 7 years. I met my ex-husband, we got married, and we had a son, Finn, 10, who has dual nationality. After the divorce, by decision of my ex, I became a single mother. So I returned to my home country with Finn at just 3 years old. I married Harry, and he has a son from another marriage, Sam, 12, who has 50-50 custody with his ex. I've been living with Harry and his son for 2 years. We share our expenses proportionally. I get twice his salary. Finn and Sam have a great relationship. Sam and I have an okay relationship, as his mother tends to be complicated when I try to bond with him. Situation. It's been almost 3 years since Finn expressed a desire to know his native country, and since his whole life, I encourage him to speak Japanese. When it's just the two of us, I'm fluent. And it's been about 6 months since I managed to take a long vacation to spend 3 to 4 weeks in Japan with Finn on his school holidays. It's an expensive trip, honestly, since we're going to visit several cities, etc. I know Sam is a big fan of Asian culture, specifically Japanese, and I felt like he was in the mood to go. I sat down with Harry, my husband, talked about Sam going with us, and that I could be responsible for taking care of him, if Harry and his mother paid his share. To be based, me and Finn will be $17,000 in expenses with airfare, hotels, and food converted, or pay at least 60-70%, and I would help with the rest. Despite being a special moment for Finn, I think it's worth taking them both, because it's a wish for them, and Finn is excited to have younger company. Harry said he couldn't afford all of it. He even considered sharing the expenses with me. But Sam's mother said that she wouldn't allow him to travel alone with me, even though I said it would help if it was for financial reasons. Now they're both pressuring me to cut down on visiting time so everyone, the four of us, can go, so I can pay almost for everyone. In that case, I could really pay. I'm standing firm, saying that I came up with the idea out of politeness and affection for Sam. But I'm not going to cut down on the travel time so I can pay for everyone, as I promised my son a long trip across the country. I'm being accused of favoritism by both of them, and that it will create a rupture in my relationship with Sam. AITA? NTA, you were extremely nice about including your stepson, but it's pretty obvious they might be trying to take advantage of you. This trip was specifically planned for your son to learn about his culture. It's unfair to ask you to cut down and still have to pay most of the trip. I hope you and your son enjoy your trip. If they want their son to experience a lovely trip, they can make an effort next time. NTA, I will say, as a parent, I understand how nervous Sam's mom would be about a step-parent taking her child to a foreign country. I can sympathize with her on that front. I'm sure you would feel the same if she wanted to take your child with her to a foreign country. Where they, Harry and Mom, are being AH is by trying to make you cut your trip short so that you can pay for everyone. Even if you are willing to cut it short so everyone can join, they should still pay their fair share. Does Sam know he was invited? I only ask because if he does find it, this is going to come back to bite his parents when he does. I know from personal experience with a half-sibling who got excluded because the other parent didn't want them to go. They are still a bit sore at their parents about not being able to go on the trip.
Next story.
I'm a 29-year-old woman, and I have a daughter, Evie. Evie recently turned 6, so we invited her friends over for a birthday party. I found these cute lunch sets that came with a lunchbox and water bottle on sale. So instead of having plates of food set out and the kids grabbing stuff, I thought it'd be fun if each kid got a lunchbox filled with food and juice in the bottle, and they could take the bottle home. Also easy for me to clean up, and there was extra food and drinks if the food in the box wasn't enough. I bought frozen lunch boxes for the girls and Spider-Man for the boys. The day came, all the kids had a blast, and when it was time for lunch, I gave them the lunch sets. I did grab a couple extras in case the kids wanted the other lunchbox, so if a girl wanted Spider-Man, vice versa. But no one said anything, and they all seemed over the moon with it. The issue started when one of the kids' moms came and saw that the girls had frozen lunchboxes and the boys Spider-Man. She asked me if I did that on purpose, to which I replied that yes, I bought Frozen for girls and Spider for boys because I thought it would be cute. She went on to say that I was enforcing gender norms on impressionable young children and stuck in the 90s. At this point, I was a bit baffled and said that it was not my intention at all, and if her daughter wanted the Spider-Man set, I would be more than happy to give it to her since I had extras. She said that's not the point, and I shouldn't have been giving out things based on gender in the first place. I just told her that it's not really that deep, to which she huffed and took off. I thought about it, and I'm wondering if it was a bad idea to have gendered lunch sets and giving stereotypical girl things to the girls and stereotypical boy things to the boys. AITA? I replied to someone in the comments, and someone else said it'd be good if I edited the post to include it, so here it is. I had 2 chairs, one with Frozen sets and one with Spidey sets, and I was standing in the middle. I told the kids to form a line, and when they came up, they just pointed to which one they wanted, which ended up being all the girls went for Frozen and the boys went for Spidey. The reason I handed them out instead of leaving it out on the table for them to grab was that I didn't want the kids to fight over one another to try and get food. I thought it'd be easier if I gave them out one by one. I'm going to say NTA. You even bought extras in case any kids wanted the other box. You didn't have to do that. When I was in 2nd grade, the school held a Christmas party, and all the kids entered in a raffle to win a gift. Trucks for the boys, dolls for the girls. I'm not a doll girl myself, but of course I won one. They didn't let me switch because they didn't have extras and no boy wanted a doll. Their words. My mom helped me donate that doll to a toy drive. It was a nice doll, too. Just not my thing, even in 2nd grade. Now I have a memory of being able to give a really cool doll to another little girl who would have wanted it. You didn't do anything wrong. Your daughter is lucky to have an open-minded and thoughtful mother who loves her, like I did.